following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Welcome to my studio. Being an independent film producer gives me the opportunity and the freedom to work on projects that hold special interest for me. American history, especially the early American years, has always been one of my interests, so it seemed natural to do a show highlighting some of the events that may have been overlooked in our history classes. After doing a lot of research, and I do mean a lot of research, I chose for this first episode to recognize a young girl whose bravery and persistence helped change the course of our nation's path. Yet few people even know what she did or even know her name. So with that being said, enjoy this little known fact.
Welcome to another edition of Little Known Facts about American History. I am your host, Kevin Potter. This episode takes us back to the very beginnings of our country, the American Revolution. And as we all know, one of the major players during this time was Mr. Paul Revere.
Excuse me, sir.
Why, there's even a poem titled The Ride of Paul Revere, written by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow.
Excuse me, sir. What about me and my horse, Star? I mean, everyone knows the poem about Paul Revere, but he wasn't the only one who made the ride against the dreaded redcoats.
It is famous.
Well, I wrote my own version. Would you like to hear it?
Yes, I would. And I'm sure our guests would enjoy it too. Please, continue.
Listen, my children, both near and far, about Sybil Ludington's ride on her horse Star. 40 miles we rode through a storm without fear, to warn the militia that the British were near. We fended off outlaws and soldiers who shoot, and rode twice the distance of Paul Revere's route.
For such a young lady, you were very brave to do such a thing.
Thank you, sir.
It's true. Paul Revere's ride has gotten all the attention throughout the years, but I would be delighted to tell your story. The story of Miss Sybil Ludington. Sybil Ludington was born April the 5th, 1761, to Colonel Henry Ludington and his wife, Abigail. Sybil was the eldest of 12 children. Colonel Henry Ludington was a volunteer militia officer and a community leader who later became an aide to none other than General George Washington. When Colonel Ludington received word the British were attacking and burning Danbury, Connecticut, just 25 miles from Ludington's hometown of Fredericksburg in New York, 16-year-old Sybil, knowing they would need as many troops as possible to fight against the British, volunteered to ride and warn the militia. So on that dismal, pouring, rain-soaked night of April the 26th, 1777, beginning at 9 p.m., Sybil, on her horse Star, rode through the towns of Carmel, Mahopek, Kent, and Stormville, sending her through the two counties of Putnam and Dutchess in New York. Not only did this young lady warn the militia the British were burning Danbury, she did so while fending off British soldiers, outlaws, and even loyalists. It's said she traveled with a stick and didn't hesitate to use it to defend herself against any attackers.
It was a wild ride.
40 miles, twice the distance Paul Revere rode. And by the time Sybil returned home in the early dawn, soaked and exhausted, almost 400 men had been assembled. 400 patriots, armed and ready to try and stop the British onslaught. However, they were unsuccessful in defending Danbury, but they did force the British troops to retreat in what became known as the Battle of Ridgefield. But she didn't hang up her tricorn hat. Throughout the rest of the Revolutionary War, Sybil helped as a messenger. For her heroic efforts, she was even recognized by General George Washington. At the age of 23, Sybil Ludington married Edward Ogden, a lawyer, and spent the rest of her life in Unadilla, New York, with their son, Harry. She died on February 26, 1839, at the age of 77, and is buried in Paterson, New York, in the same cemetery as her father.
And don't forget to mention, they misspelled my name.
That's right. The name on her headstone is spelled Sybil, S-I-B-B-E-L-L, in honor of her heroic ride. Fredericksburg, her hometown, was later renamed Ludingtonville. And in Carmel, New York, there is a statue of Ludington on her horse, created by sculptor Anna Hyatt Huntington. In 1976, our nation's bicentennial, the United States Post Office issued a commemorative stamp celebrating her heroic ride. That is another little-known fact about American history.
But now you know.
Sybil Ludington was a true American heroine of the American Revolution. Move over, Mr. Revere.
Preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.